Hello fellow Clashers, it is Kairos time and welcome to another Exploring the Meta episode. Today we're going to be mixing it up. We're going to be doing a card tier list. This is very different than how I've done Exploring the Meta in the past, and I think this is a good fit for how I'm going to be doing it in the future. It is a continuation of Clyde's tier list, and if you don't know who Clyde is, he is a retired professional player at Clash Royale. He's won several tournaments and has gained somewhat of a title of expert when it comes to understanding which cards are the best and worst in the game. This is the continuation of that series. In today's video, I'm going to be covering a lot of different usage rates and win rates that are provided by statsroyale.com. If you haven't checked out their website, make sure you do so. The numbers that you're going to be seeing are going to be based off of 5 days worth of data in grand challenges, arguably the most competitive meta in the game. Before we get moving on to the tier list, there's some important disclaimers that I wanted to make sure and give you. This is all about competitive play. This means that we're throwing the ladder out, we're also throwing classic challenges out. What we're talking about is the most competitive tournament gameplay. The tier rankings that we're going to be giving cards are going to be based off of competitive tournaments and grand challenges. It's important to realize that a deck full of all high tier cards does not necessarily make a great deck. When it comes to building a deck, you'll definitely want to make sure you at least consider these cards and make sure you have an answer to all of the different cards, but throwing them all into your deck might not make the best deck. At the same time, just because a card is low tier does not necessarily mean that it cannot be used successfully in competitive gameplay. Cards have to really complement each other when you're making a deck, and that's why a deck with all S tier or A tier cards is not necessarily going to be the best. The usage rates and win rates are all provided by statsroyale.com and are regarding to grand challenges only. These numbers may not reflect where you're at in the trophies, and it may not be a representation of what is found in classic challenges. It's also important to realize that win rates and usage rates are not the only determining factor when it comes to putting different cards into different tiers. I did use them, but I did also use my opinion and experience when it comes to competitive gameplay to determine which cards fit where. My opinion may be different than yours, and that's absolutely fine. If you do disagree, please let me know in the comment section below. That way the community can benefit from your expertise as well. First up, we have the S tier cards. These are the cards that may be considered OP in the game. They definitely influence the meta in a lot of different ways, and you can count on seeing a lot of them in top tier decks. They're either very versatile or they can fit into a lot of different deck types, which makes them very important to be aware of. Previous S tier cards include the Graveyard and the Log. As far as new S tier cards, you guessed it, number 1 on the list is the Night Witch. Although it's a new card, it was found in 25% of grand challenges with an amazing 64% win rate. That's just incredible. While I'm sure that the community is going to get better at countering the Night Witch as time passes on, she definitely deserves a spot in the S tier. Up next we have the Golem. The Golem has the highest win rate of any win condition in the game, and it's easy to see why. Because of the popularity of cheap cards like the Skeletons that do a really great job on defense while you're trying to build up a Golem push, and because of all the death damage that clears any type of swarm unit. Not to mention the fact that there are a lot of great counters to the Inferno Tower. The Golem is definitely a strong card to be using at the moment. Up next we have Poison. Poison was ranked A and it has been incredibly strong right now, especially with the introduction of the Night Witch. With the 57% win rate, it has the second highest win rate out of all of the cards, second only to the Night Witch. Poison can be used in beatdown decks, control decks, and does a great job at taking care of the Graveyard and Night Witch as well. Up next we have Tornado. Tornado could be considered either an A tier or an S tier card. I decided to put it in the S tier category because in the hands of the right player, the Tornado will provide incredible defensive ability. It's one of the best counters to the Night Witch, and is even considered a hard counter against a lot of win conditions like the Hog Miner or Goblin Barrel. You can even use it to counter the Golem with a little bit of support by pulling it to your King's Tower. Up next we have the Goblin Gang. The Goblin Gang has an incredible high usage rate. This is the utility card to be using right now. Even with the Log being very prevalent in the meta, the Goblin Gang does a great job at providing great defense, and as more people are starting to switch over to Zap because of the introduction of the Night Witch, Goblin Gang is starting to make even more sense. Finally, we're going to add the Skeletons in the S tier category. Since the 4th Skeleton was added back to this card, Skeletons have been doing a great job at providing insane amounts of value. They can easily stop an Electro Wizard for a 3 elixir trade without any damage onto your tower if you know how to use them. Not to mention they offer a lot of great defense if you have a heavy deck, and if you have a fast deck, they offer great ability to cycle through your cards. Because they can counter so many different cards for positive elixir trade and can't be cleared from the board with a spell without losing elixir, I had to put the Skeletons in the S tier. Up next we have the A tier. The A tier is full of cards that aren't necessarily as game-changing as S tier cards, but they're still seen in a lot of top tier decks and can provide amazing value. Here are the cards that were in the A tier and are staying in the A tier. We have the Miner, Lightning, Goblin Barrel, Elixir Collector, Giant, Hog Rider, Minions, and the Knight. New to the A tier is the Electro Wizard. He used to be in the S tier category because he did such a great job at defining the meta, but we've seen a decrease in his use not only because of the 1 Elixir skeletons that do such a great job at countering him, but also with the addition of the Night Witch. People are also getting better at counting the Electro Wizard, which is why he's moved from S tier to A tier. Up next we have the Executioner. As the Night Witch has entered into the meta, a lot of people are looking for good ways that we can try and counter the Night Witch, and the Executioner is a very obvious choice. When paired up with a Tornado, he will basically put an end to any push, no matter what the size is. Because of this, I felt it was only necessary to bump him up into the A category, especially because of his new win rate of 54%. Very similar to the Executioner, we also have the Baby Dragon. The Baby Dragon was popular even before the Night Witch was put into the meta, because of its air support and ability to clear a lot of different swarms. Right now, the Baby Dragon is being used in 28% of all decks in Grand Challenges, which is greater than 1 in every 4. It also has an impressive win rate. Once the bats are released, the Baby Dragon has a good shot at moving up into the S tier as well as the Executioner. Right now, Zap is being used in 32% of decks. Although its win rate is less than 50%, Zap seems to be making a lot more sense because it can get rid of the bats that are spawned by the Night Witch. With the introduction of the bats coming up soon, I'm sure that more people will be selecting Zap instead of the Log. Up next we have B tier cards. B tier cards are good cards, but they can suffer due to being countered by some different cards in the meta. If used right though, they can be an excellent addition into your deck. Cards that are staying in the B tier include the Princess, the Lava Hound, Bandit, Bowler, Expo, 3 Musketeers, Rocket, Fireball, Battle Ram, Mega Minion, Ice Golem, and the Archers. The newest addition to the B tier list includes the Balloon. Used to be an A ranked card, but with the addition of a lot of anti-air cards including the Night Witch, I've mentioned the Night Witch a lot, the Balloon is going from an A to a B. One thing that you'll see a lot as we talk about these new cards is the decrease in usage of defensive buildings. This is bringing the Furnace from an A down to a B. This is most likely happening because of more defensive troops like the Electro Wizard, Executioner, Baby Dragon, etc. But the usage rates of nearly all defensive buildings seem to be going down. Up next we have the Musketeer. The Musketeer can be used very well if you know how to use her, but she's definitely not meta defining right now. The fact that she can be countered by skeletons so easily makes it a pretty obvious choice to move her from an A to a B. Similar to the Furnace, Tombstone is seeing a lot less usage as well, especially because skeletons offer more value for their cost. Up next we also have the Ice Spirit. The Ice Spirit can provide a lot of value if you know how to use it right, but skeletons are usually picked first when it comes to cycling, with Ice Spirit as an afterthought. Up next we have C tier. C tier cards can offer a lot of value when in combination with other cards that do well, but by themselves these cards can even be considered useless. Staying in the C tier category are the Lumberjack, Ice Wizard, the P.E.K.K.A, Freeze, Skeleton Army, Barbarian Hut, Valkyrie, Dark Goblin, Elite Barbarians, Minion Horde, Mortar, Arrows, and the Fire Spirits. The first newest addition to the C tier category is the Inferno Tower. The Inferno Tower has been considered a staple in a lot of control decks because of its ability to clear big expensive tanks. However, with Zap, Lightning, the Electro Wizard, and now the Night Witch, the Inferno Tower is going to need some extra assistance if it's going to be able to stop those tanks. This is why it's gone from a B tier to a C tier. Next we have the Heal. Previously not ranked, this has been a new card since the last Clyde's tier list, and it's found a very interesting home along with a lot of 3 Musketeer decks and maybe some other funky little decks. It's a fun card to play around with, but it doesn't offer a lot on the competitive scene of Clash Royale. Most people use it as a pocket or surprise card, but it holds no value by itself, which is why it falls in the C tier category. Up next we have the Royal Giant. I know the Royal Giant can be a real pain to deal with in the ladder when he's overleveled, but when it comes to the competitive meta, he's just not very good. He gets out beat downed by other beatdown decks, he gets out sieged by siege decks, he gets out controlled by control decks. He's a jack of trade and king of none, which makes him not the greatest option unless you're facing somebody that you know is going to be playing a siege deck. Up next we have the D tier. D tier cards are pretty much useless. They can have their moments every now and then, but not very consistently, and they're almost always better options for them. Staying in the D tier category is the Inferno Dragon, Giant Skeleton, Witch, Dark Prince, Clone, Rage, Wizard, Barbarians, Tesla, and the Bomber. New to the D tier is the Prince. We all have memories of the Prince when we first started playing Clash Royale. He was really strong until you learned how to counter him. Well, with the goblins and skeletons in the meta and so common right now, the Prince is starting to look more and more useless and is joining his dark brother in the ranks of D. Next, we have the Guards. Guys, I love the Guards. I think they're such a great card, but they offer so little DPS that they're completely overshadowed by the Skeleton Army and the Goblin Gang. Even those fancy shields don't warrant using the Guards in the competitive scene right now. And up next, we have the Mirror. The Mirror almost always puts you at an elixir disadvantage. And I know that it's been kind of fun to play with the Mirror and the Night Witch and Clone and Rage. That can be fun, but that does not really work out very well in the competitive scene of Clash Royale, especially with so much splash damage out there. We have next the Mini P.E.K.K.A. I really love the Mini P.E.K.K.A. too, guys, but why would you go with a Mini P.E.K.K.A. when you can go with a Mini P.E.K.K.A. that spawns bats? He does have a little bit more hit points, DPS, and is a little bit faster, but there's just better options out there right now. In a meta where defensive buildings only seem to slow things down, the cannon is also being ranked down to this D category. It has very low usage rates and very low win rates because it's so easily cleared by popular cards like the Fireball or Lightning. Up next, we have F tier cards. These are the worst of the worst in the games. There's almost no reason to be using these, and if you can make these cards work consistently, you're basically considered a pro. Staying in the F tier is Sparky, the Bomb Tower, the Spear Goblins, and the Goblins. And coming to the F tier is the Goblin Hut. There's a reason why the Goblin Hut is at such a low usage rate. We're in a splash heavy meta and those Spear Goblins just don't last very long. Not to mention that the Furnace adds both more value and threat for one less elixir. Thank you so much for watching this, everybody. I really do appreciate all of the support that you've given me. It's been phenomenal. If you like this video, make sure you like it and leave a comment in the section below saying that you want me to continue. If I have enough support, I'll continue to try and put these out at least every month, if not more than that. If you're new to my channel, subscribe and welcome to the Kairos family. It goes a long way if you share this with your friends, everybody, so that they can also know which cards are the best and the worst in the game. And of course, guys, clash on. For now, this is Kairos time ticking by, and we will see you in the arena.